Searching for Causes is one of my favorite essays to assign. I've assigned some version of it basically my entire academic career because it gets at this question of why. Whether you are, Jacques Derrida sitting in a Paris cafe, staring out at the masses and wondering why. Why do people congregate the way they do? All the way down to a 2-year-old kid just learning how to talk and wanting to know why they can't eat their 10th piece of candy today. The question why is on all of our minds, basically all of our lives. And so I like to kind of scratch that itch. I had a philosophy minor as an undergraduate, and so I like asking those questions. And so we can make this as academic as possible, but hopefully we also make this assignment as fun as possible as well. So let me get into the steps involved in completing this essay. And hopefully this screen here is going to be big enough. Step number one, you need to establish a trend, okay? That is, oops, sorry. People are doing your trend. They're either doing it more, which means it's trendy, or it's not a trend anymore. It's something people are doing less. So I have plenty of ideas about how to find an appropriate topic. I'm always going to want you to bring me in on that. But why do people do anything? Why do people do more or less? Or why does anybody do blank? Pick something that you want to write about, of course. Pick something that you have at least some knowledge about. I would also suggest picking something that you have some passion about. And from there, the ideas tend to flow pretty easily. You can just about make anything a trend with the right bit of sort of tweaking and reconsidering. So let's, if you just want to start with an idea, I want to write about this, and then you take it from there and we can turn it into a trend. I will go big screen for this. If you want to spend a lot of time with one subject, you could make it the subject of this essay as well as your research project, which we're not going to talk any more about, but I'm okay with that sort of double dipping as long as you're okay with spending that protracted a time with a single subject. So what makes a trend a trend? People are doing it more or less the last 5 or so years, and then you have a really easy opportunity, hopefully, to research your trend. If you want to do something like people going to the movies less than they used to, even though movies make a lot of money, just as much as they ever have, fewer people are going to movie theaters. You could research that. It would be pretty easy, and I'm sure you have different reasons to explain that trend than maybe I do, or any trend. Technology is probably the easiest way in, but there are plenty of other ways to go as well. So please just let me help you with that. So you want to establish a sense of mystery, and this is probably the thing that students get tripped up on the most, is they don't really try to get at the sort of the contradiction that belies the trend itself. So it can't, I just don't want you to be like, and people wonder why. Try to get a sense of mystery, and ways of doing that is by sparking your readers' curiosity about your trend. And so just to give you a longer example here, if I were to write about this, I would write about collecting vinyl. You see all these vinyl albums down here? They're, these are, I wouldn't necessarily call these people crate diggers, but this is on one of the, there's 2 National Record Store Days a year, and this one is from April, I believe. But this is, a weird trend, I think. People buying vinyl albums, playing vinyl albums, is a little bit mysterious because we have, we have digital music, we have streaming services, we have, personal technology that allows us to listen to music kind of anywhere. I stream my iTunes library through my car on my way to work. I don't use my satellite radio. I also have satellite radio. So why do people still buy vinyl, which is by all measures an outdated technology, right? It's a format that is ill-suited to modern times. And all the same, vinyl sales are kind of through the roof. You could research vinyl sales, no problem, and find that people are spending a ton of money on vinyl albums. And if you want a little sneak peek into the future hipsters, cassettes are on their way back. You can ask your parents about cassettes, or if you're supporting teachers in the room with you, go ahead and ask him or her about what a cassette was. I don't know if we'll ever see 8 tracks again, but I don't discount anything in this day and age. So anyway, all this to say that people are buying vinyl albums, even though you can't really put a vinyl album, like the record itself, you can't, play it in your car, you can't take it with you, and it's got, kind of fidelity issues. Okay, so why do people still shop for vinyl? A good question. Why do I I don't shop for vinyl like I nearly used to now that I have children who I'd much rather spend my money on. But it's still a question worth asking. Why, why do people like me spend so much money on, outdated technology, outmoded technology? Okay, so that's where you start with the question. You start with that question, why? And then through the process of building and organizing your ideas, you're eventually going to share a thesis statement. Now, this is the only, let me go big screen here before you start reading all this stuff. This is the only assignment, I gotta remember never to wear dark on a screencast day because I think I'm showing up pretty dark here. I'm never going to ask you to share a thesis statement this directly ever again. And if you don't feel the need to write a thesis statement that is like X, Y, and Z, like you don't have to at all. There are explicit thesis statements, which the sort of which I'm going to teach you right now, because I feel like you're probably going to run into some writing situations where you're going to have someone reading your work who's going to insist that you use the thesis statement. But there's also what are called implicit thesis statements, and those are ones where you can count on your reader to find them. They don't have to be and it's almost like reading off an index card. Like, for the following reasons I will be discussing in this essay. People love it. I don't know. I never really did. And I'm glad that my ideas about them have finally kind of come around and they're popular enough that I don't have to require a thesis statement. But I'm not doing my job if I don't make you get a little bit of practice with it. So if thesis statements give you comfort, they're just a nice warm blanket that you want to wrap yourself in, go ahead, be comfortable for this essay. But be prepared to be challenged by me later on. Okay, let's see. So a thesis statement is, generally speaking, a single sentence that summarizes your entire essay. If your essay is a movie, then your thesis statement is like a trailer that gives everything away. Tell your readers where you're going to go. It's a promise that your essay keeps. Your thesis is a promise. Think of it that way, maybe. Okay, your trend plus your possible causes. So I'm going to show you an example here in a second, but that's really kind of those are the two key components of this assignment, is to demonstrate the existence of a trend and then speculate about the causes behind that trend. You want to focus on the users as well. This is very important. Go big screen again. You're always going to be in safer territory by thinking about the people who do the trend more than the trend itself. Now, that's probably going to be a comment that I will make on many, many, many rough drafts when I see them, but no harm in saying it right now. Don't focus on the technology that improves. Focus on the people using the technology. That's a much easier way into understanding motivations, justifications, rationalizations, whatever you want to call them. So if you are going to write on why people buy vinyl or why people don't go to the movies anymore, don't focus on 4K TVs as much as the people who buy them, what their motivations are for buying them. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, of course, you can email me, but focus on the user end of things, not so much on maybe the machinations of the trend itself, like what it takes to complete the trend to do it. Focus maybe more on the users, like you focus on the vinyl buyer more than the vinyl technology. That would be my advice. You can succeed in a couple of different ways, but that's going to be your smoothest path. This essay is called Searching for Causes, and so speculation needs to be key. You don't know the reason why every single person buys vinyl. I don't know. We have to do our best job to guess, to estimate, to speculate, right? And some speculations are, I'm going to get to this later, but be off the wall a little bit, be creative, be clever, be cute. All right, there's plenty of ways to justify just about any behavior, right? I mean, come on, think about the lies we all tell ourselves when we're brushing our teeth in the morning or wherever. So be speculative in nature, all this to say. Okay, I'm not sure if that's big enough or not. Let me take a swig of coffee. Maybe too much coffee today. What do you guys think? Okay, so perhaps, and that's all it takes for an attitude of speculation, is a word like perhaps, or it may be, that sort of thing. Perhaps people continue to buy albums on vinyl because, so there's your trend, people buy albums on vinyl because the sound is more authentic. People like the clicks and the pops and the warmth, right? There's this idea of warmth that vinyl, just accomplishes that you can't get in a very sterile sort of digital setting, okay? Because bands put extra artistic effort into their albums. Sorry, that's two. And listening to music on vinyl requires more attention than just doing another digital thing. You put on an album, you get to think about, the artist's intent, that they wanted you to hear side A from beginning to end, and then flip it over and listen to side B. That sort of thing kind of matters to some artists, or at least a certain sort of artist. And especially in a digital age where you can buy songs for 99 cents at a pop, $1.29 mostly now, Well, there's something to be said for that, for putting on one album and listening to it. I know that, if I were to, think about these causes a little more, I try to come up with the causes that maybe I, choose to use to describe my vinyl purchases. But I tell you what, you put on an album with, our turntable, and my kids know we're not going to switch songs. We're not going to go to, the Taylor Swift channel on Pandora all that quickly, because, once we start an album, we listen to it all the way through, whether that album is, Rubber Soul or usually it's the Beatles. But, it's also sort of a parenting diversionary sort of like pay attention to the music sort of technique, right? Okay, so from there, once you develop your thesis statement, you develop cause paragraphs, all right, or units. I like the word unit a little better. So each potential cause gets its own paragraph or unit. So you don't want to, this is me trying to sneakily teach you about idea organization. So you have one idea, you want to devote a certain section of the paper to it. It doesn't have to be one paragraph, because certainly people can write very long paragraphs, and I don't want you to get too drawn out in that sense. So if it's a paragraph, fine. If it's a couple paragraphs, that's also fine. Okay, so what you do is you kind of walk a mile in that person's shoes. So someone who participates in the trend for that particular reason, tell me where they're coming from. Tell me what their perspective is. Tell me, what maybe their life is like, or what their priorities are, or what drives their decisions. All right, so again, the focus being on the user end of things and not on the other, on the tech itself. Okay, so always going to want you to use specific examples. If you have personal experiences, that's great. If you participate in the trend for that reason, absolutely great, do it. There are certainly research opportunities. You can also get maybe a little hand in what's called primary research. What I mean by research here, if you go to the library, it's secondary research, but primary research is when you interview other people. So if you want to talk to someone who does your trend for the reason that you're basing this particular paragraph on, then go right ahead and ask that person and use them as an example in your essay. Okay, so each cause paragraph should do a couple of things. Okay, did everybody see that in time? Each cause paragraph should. Now you're getting sick. Begin with a transition and a topic sentence. Okay, I don't love those, but again, the same thing with the thesis statement. I feel like you got to get some practice. One reason why people may buy volume or buy vinyl is that sort of thing. All right, and that's all in the name of keeping readers on track. And I think there are more stylistic ways or more artful ways of keeping readers on track than just this. But again, I'm not doing my job if I don't expose you at least to the idea of transitions and topic sentences. Okay, link each paragraph clearly back to your thesis. That tends to happen at the ends of your paragraphs. The ends of argumentative or persuasive paragraphs or speculative paragraphs like this one, like these ones. You always want to kind of draw some sort of a conclusion. You want to have a sort of like a therefore type statement. Okay, so another possible cause behind the surge in vinyl sales is that people appreciate the level of care and artistry that many bands put into their vinyl releases, right? So that's nice to say. Let me just leave that there for a second so you can read it. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm running out of time. So here we go. So here's one of my purchases from not too long ago, but pretty long ago. Sleater-Kinney, one of my favorite bands. They are awesome. They've been around forever. Three ladies, Corinne, Carrie, and Janet. No bass, and they are punk rock as it gets. So they had a box set release of all of their albums, or at least they got back together and announced another. They released another album, No Cities to Love. But these are their most famous ones. Dig Me Out, Hot Rock's good, All Hands on the Bad One, and This Is the Woods, their last one. All good, but if you can see, I don't know what your fidelity is like, but you can see that there are all the different vinyls are different colors. There are embedded sides, like side 2 is also side 4 for a couple of them. There is a little booklet that accompanies each of them that you're just not going to get if you download it from iTunes. You're just not. So if I were to write this paragraph, this is the example that I would use. Uh-oh, do we freeze up? Oh, okay, conclude. Your conclusion is the only place for your opinion about the trend. I'm going to run out of time, but the conclusion, your end, is the only place where you're allowed to judge or have an opinion about people who use the trend or the trend itself. I think more people should buy vinyl, but I'm not going to put that in any other place in my paper except for the conclusion. Okay, what does this trend say about us? Go ahead and let loose. And then just a couple of other things. Be clever. Remember that sense of wonder and mystery. Play that up. And for goodness sake, please try to have some sort of fun with this assignment. That's what it's meant to do. All right, so I was hoping to be able to play you a little bit of Sleater-Kinney. There we go. Let's go. Words and guitar. Email me your questions. There we go.